right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Achakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the elders, and bishops at Great Millstone. I'm your brother, Rabbi Nab, coming out with a lesson. Lord's will, this is edifying to the Lord's elect. I found this on apnews.com. It says the Duck says Iran is eager for a deal to end the war as he extends deadline to allow for diplomacy. So not too long ago, maybe a couple of days ago, he said they would have had 48 hours, which would have been today, this Monday, before he started blowing up their power plants. So now let's see what the Duck's talking about. It says Dubai, United Arab Emirates. U.S. President Donald Duck said Monday the U.S. was talking with an Iranian leader and claimed the Islamic Republic was eager for a deal to end the war. He also extended the deadline for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz or face attacks on its power plants, saying it has an additional 5 days. So now he's adding time to the 48 hours. All right. But, he killed the leader that he killed. I forgot his name, but one of the leaders that he killed two of them on this, maybe about a week ago. He was sort of moderate, he was the one that was, probably would have sat and talked with him, but the nigga killed him. So this is why seems kind of weird that they would be so willing to negotiate after you killed the people who would negotiate with you. It says Duck's turnaround, which held out the possibility of resolving the war now in its fourth week. And he said within 3 to 4 weeks. So you got all these deadlines all the damn time. And before that, he said 10 to 15 days. He said, this war should already been over like yesterday. Served to drive down oil prices and jolt stocks. It offered a reprieve after the U.S. and Iran traded threats over the weekend that could have cut electricity to millions in Iran and around the Gulf and knocked out the desalination plants providing many desert nations with drinking water. So this is saying is pretty much, you cause all this damn damage and then you think, he's talking like they're ready to sit at the negotiation table, but it doesn't look like that's what he wants to do, especially what he's doing in in Israel. He's trying to make war. He just bombed Diego Garcia, a military base that's 2,500 miles away, or he tried to bomb him and they intercepted the missile. I don't know if they actually hit it, but it showed that the range of the missile far exceeded what they believed that they had in the first place. So, that already goes, that's an escalation within itself. Showing you now, even EU, Keir Starmer was talking to his people and basically pretty much saying that they asked him about the missiles and he didn't even really give a clear answer. So, they looking kind of scary right now. Duck told reporters Iran wants to make a deal. Yeah, they want to make a deal. And he claimed U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Duck's son-in-law and Jared Kushner had held talks Sunday with an Iranian leader. He did not say who that was, but said the U.S. has not talked to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei. Well, that's the one you should be talking to. Okay? He's the new Ayatollah. So if you don't speak to him, then he probably won't want to talk to you. You said he ain't gonna have a long life and all of that. Iran denied talks had been held. So they denied talks had been held. No negotiations have been held with the U.S. Iranian Parliament. Speaker Mohammed Bagher Qualibif posted on X, adding that fake news is used to manipulate the financial and oil markets, and that's 100% right. That's all he cares about is the stock market. So he'll say a bunch of this shit just so the price the price of gold was going down. Let's see where it's at. It was down like 4,000. What's the price of gold? Yep. So I don't know. Let's see. When I looked at it, it was like around this price right here, maybe a little lower. When I looked at it maybe early this morning. Yeah, 224. So it went up a little bit. So it shows you the rhetoric, man, how that works. It's just price manipulation. What's the stock market S&P 500 looking like? Current performance. Let's see if we get some news. Just show me a graph, man. Okay, there we go. So it closed at 6,500, up 1.15%. So when he talks, that's how this all this graph shit. That shit's fake. Bunch of bullshit. Some nigga just comes out, say a few words, and it goes up. Get the fuck out of here. You trusting that shit? I don't. Zephaniah 1 verse 10. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, that there shall be a noise of a cry from the fish gate, and a howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. So that you see, it looks like hills. And when that hill goes down, that's the crash. That's what's coming. And it shall come to pass at that time, how ye inhabitants of Maktesh, Zephaniah 1 and 11, for all the merchant people are cut down, all they that bear silver are cut off. Let's read that in the NLT. On that day, says the Lord, a cry of alarm will come from the fish gate and echo throughout the new quarter of the city, and a great crash will sound from the hills. That's talking about a stock market crash. Wail and sorrow, all you who live in the market area, for all the merchants and traders will be destroyed. So with the Maktesh in Zephaniah 1 and 12 is Zephaniah 1 and 11 is actually talking about that's where you do your trade. We trade now. You're looking at the stock market. That's what it is. That's what it represents. And that crashing from the hills is a crash. He's not going to be able to just talk up the stock market anymore. That's just going to be a wrap. And all of you who bear silver, you're going to be cut off, meaning your money's not going to sustain you. Proverbs 11 and 4, riches profiteth not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivereth from death. So your riches ain't going to profit you in the day of wrath, and it's not going to profit you during Jacob's trouble either. Proverbs 11 and 4 in the NLT, riches won't help on the day of judgment, but right living can save you from death. That's right. So we want to live righteously. See if there's any more on this. Duck says Iran would give up its enriched uranium. Duck said if a deal is reached, the U.S. would move to take Iran's enriched uranium, which is critical to its disputed nuclear program. Iran has adamantly refused such demands in the past, insisting it has the right to enrich uranium for peaceful purposes. Well, that contradicts what I heard. Iranian news that shows they want reparations. Let's see if any news on that. War reparations. Oh, that's 2 days ago. Iran's president sets terms to end the war. Iran is asking for reparations. So this is a week ago. Let's see what it says in Al Jazeera.
Iran's president sets terms to end the war. Is an off-ramp in sight? Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has laid out terms for ending the war with the United States and Israel in what analysts say is a possible sign of de-escalation from Tehran, as the U.S.-Israel war on Iran entered its 13th day on Thursday.
Now this is 10 days old, but I'm curious to see what he says.
In a post on Wednesday on social site X, Pezeshkian said he had spoken to his counterparts in Russia and Pakistan, and that he had confirmed Iran's commitment to peace. The only way to end this war, ignited by the Zionist regime and AMP, U.S. is recognizing Iran's legitimate rights, payment of reparations, and firm international guarantees against future aggression.
I guess that's true. That's true. That was 10 days ago. A lot of shit happens in the last 10 days. So where's their mindset today? Okay. Iran has already performed 99% of the centrifuge work required to produce weapons-grade uranium for 9 nuclear weapons, said Robert Goldston. Hey, that matches up with Second Edges 15 and 30. How he shall waste away a portion of the land of Assyria. They got 99% of centrifuge work. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? A centrifuge separates mixtures of varying densities, such as blood, oil/water, or suspensions, by spinning them at high speeds, creating powerful centrifugal force. This force acts like accelerated gravity, forcing denser components to the bottom pellet and lighter components to the top, supernatant far faster than natural settling. I don't know what that's talking about, but it has something to do with them and their missile. Iran has already performed 99% of the centrifuge work required to produce weapons-grade uranium for 9 nuclear weapons. So whatever that's the centrifugal work that they got that already, 99% of it. Said Robert Goldstein, a Princeton University professor who researches arms control and fusion energy. As of June 2025, the International Atomic Energy Agency estimated that Iran had 440.9 kilograms of highly enriched uranium. So there's a lot here. I'm not going to read it all, but that's kind of where we at with that, man. Let's read the headlines. Duck says Iran will give up its enriched uranium, so they're probably not going to give up the enriched uranium if Duck is saying that they're going to do that. Turkey and Egypt, meanwhile, said they had spoken to the warring parties, the first sign of coordinated mediation from regional heavyweights. The war launched by the U.S. and Israel has killed more than 2,000, shaken the global economy, sent oil prices surging, and endangered some of the world's busiest air corridors. Duck threatened over the weekend to obliterate Iran's power plants. The 5-day extension was subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions, Duck said. They want peace, Duck said. They've agreed they will not have a nuclear weapon, etc., but we'll see. He said there's a very good chance a deal will be reached this week, crediting his threat to blow up Iranian power plants. So all bullshit to manipulate the stock market, according to Iran. It says Iran denies, listen to this.
Iran denies any talks with U.S. after Trump claims productive discussions by Al Jazeera staff.
So who do you believe? You believe the Iranian man, or do you believe the so-called white man?
Senior Iranian officials have denied that Iran held talks with the United States just hours after U.S. President Donald Trump claimed very good and productive conversations had taken place towards ending the war. Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said in a social media post on Monday that no negotiations have been held with the U.S.
See? That's why, I don't even like listening to American news anymore because it's full of shit. He got all types of lawsuits and shit against them. He don't want them speaking. So no negotiations have been held with the U.S., man. So it's all market manipulation.
Fake news is used to manipulate the financial and oil markets and escape the quagmire in which the U.S. and Israel are trapped, Ghalibaf wrote on X. That echoed earlier remarks from Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Bagheri, who also denied that any discussions with the U.S. had taken place. In comments shared by Iran's...
That's two people saying that didn't happen. Where's your proof that you spoke to them, Duck? He don't give you any proof. Iran says, Duck, back down. Oh, I got to read that. Possible international mediation. Earlier, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas spoke by phone with his Turkish counterpart. Turkey has been an intermediary. The Turkish foreign minister declined to comment on Monday. Turkish officials said Fiden had also spoken to his counterparts from Qatar, Saudi Arabia, blah, blah, blah. Egyptian President Abdel delivered clear messages to Iran focused on de-escalating the conflict. The Egyptian foreign minister said it was making constant efforts and communications with all parties. An Egyptian official said the U.S. and Iran exchanged messages through Egypt. Turkey and Pakistan over the weekend aimed at averting strikes on energy infrastructure. The official was not authorized to speak to the media and so spoke on condition of anonymity. For now, it appears they managed to avert an energy catastrophe that would result if Duck attacked Iran's energy facilities, and Iran responded, said the diplomat, who was not authorized to speak with journalists and also spoke on condition of anonymity. Iran, what's going on here, man? Esau messing with my computer. In the wake of Duck's turnaround, Iran's semi-official portrayed the American president as backing down. Since the start of the war, messages have been sent to Tehran by some mediators, but Iran's clear response has been that it will continue its defense until the required level of deterrence is achieved. And I don't think that required level of deterrence is achieved if you're still sending people to that area. You know, they actually told you that they want you to have boots on the ground so they can really get to you. So why would he talk? You already said what you're going to do, and he already said what he wanted to do. He wants to see your boots on the ground, and you're supposed to be bringing them over there. Maybe if the boots on the ground, we'll see if they want to talk then. With this kind of psychological warfare, neither the Strait of Hormuz will return to prior conditions, nor will calm return to energy markets. Okay. Anyways, so it seems like a long escalation. Let me continue with this.
Official IRNA news agency, Bagaya said that messages have been received from some friendly countries regarding the U.S.'s request for negotiations to end the war. There
ain't gonna be no end to this war, man. This is it. This is Esau's last grand finale. You know, he got to get all of it. Everyone, he got to get y'all over there. You got to fulfill Joel 2:20.
Trials come as the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran has entered its fourth week, with the Israeli military saying on Monday that it had launched a fresh wave of attacks on the Iranian capital, Tehran. Iran also has continued to fire missiles and drones across the wider Middle East and essentially shut the Strait of Hormuz, a critical Gulf waterway through which about 1/5 of the world's oil and gas supplies transit.
Hold on, but I thought you destroyed everything, and last time he said there was nobody to talk to. So his tongue falling upon himself. He's saying that he destroyed everybody, there's nobody to talk to. As a matter of fact, let me grab that article. Trump said he destroyed all the leaders in Iran and there's nobody to talk to. Yeah, Trump says 3 days ago. Duck says U.S. wants talks with Iran, but there's nobody to talk to after killing of senior officials. So this was 3 days ago. So who are you going to talk to if there's nobody to talk to?
That has sent global energy prices soaring and raised concerns about the war's escalating toll on people around the world. On Saturday, Trump had threatened to obliterate Iran's power plants if the country did not open the Strait of Hormuz to all vessels within 48 hours.
Well, today's 48. You pushed the day for 5 days more. So it sounds like, and they still bombing shit.
But in an all-caps Truth Social post on Monday morning, the U.S. president said he had instructed the Department of Defense to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, amid the purported talks with Iran. He said the postponement was subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Separately, Trump also told reporters that the talks took place on Sunday. He said the U.S. had been speaking with a top person in Iran without specifying who exactly that person was.
Top person. You don't want to tell you who it is. That's funny as hell.
They want very much to make a deal. We'd like to make a deal too, Trump said. We're doing a 5-day period. We'll see how that goes. And if it goes well, we're going to end up settling this. Otherwise, we'll just keep bombing our little hearts out. Reporting from Tehran, Al Jazeera's Ali Hashem noted that while Iran has denied that any talks have taken place, regional actors have been pushing for de-escalation. There are some messages that are being conveyed by regional players, Hashem said. Everyone right now is trying to bring both sides back to a level where there is a possibility to start a kind of framework for talks. But how will this be reflected on the ground? How will this be demonstrated? This is the big question. Hassan Ahmadian, a professor at the University of Tehran, said Trump could be using the prospect of talks as a way to backtrack from his 48-hour ultimatum to strike Iran's energy infrastructure, which would have further escalated the war. It seems that there are mediation efforts that started regionally by Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey trying to find a way out of this standoff, Ahmadian told Al Jazeera. But Trump going this heavy on this mediation effort speaks volumes to him trying to climb down from the deadline he issued and the Iranian threat of retaliation that would have been really significant, according to the Iranians. He said he wanted to climb down, and this mediation effort, I think, was his way to do it, by Al Jazeera staff.
Yeah. Well, you're going to try to de-escalate, but still, that ain't going to stop anything. Everything's going to escalate, man. I'm waiting to hear some news about them bringing people over there. That seems to be the biggest issue. It's this Russia-Vietnam advanced plans for first nuclear power plant. Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh and Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin meet in Moscow. So even Vietnam want to get in on this. They're probably like, man, we got to get our nukes up too. And the Russians like, yeah, we're going to help you out with that. Russia and Vietnam on Monday signed a cooperation agreement on the construction of Vietnam's first nuclear power plant, Russia's Rosatom nuclear agency said. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh was visiting energy-rich Russia as Vietnam seeks to shore up its fuel reserves at a time of disruption to energy supplies caused by the war in the Middle East, sparking fears of fuel shortages around the world. That's right. As a matter of fact, now that they said that, I found this on WNCT.com. It says International Energy Agency head says global economy faces major threat from Iran war. Because I saw something online. This lady was basically saying that there's going to be lockdown soon. Not like COVID. They're going to say it's like you got to... I don't know where she was getting this information from, but I was just looking for news. But she was basically saying because of the high gas prices and all this electrical stuff, in order to save on electricity, and they're saying that telling people to work from home, just like the same thing that they did with COVID. You know, to work from home, to be, don't travel as much, and then, you got everything that's going on is just crazy. So Wellington, New Zealand, the head of International Energy Agency said Monday that the global economy faces a major threat because of the Iran war. No country will be immune to the effects of this crisis if it continues to go in this direction, Faith Burrows said at Australia's National Press Club in Canberra on Monday. The crisis in the Middle East, he said, has had a worse impact on oil than the two oil shocks of the 1970s combined, and a worse effect on gas than the Russia-Ukraine war. Israel launched a new wave of attacks early Monday against Tehran. U.S. President Donald Duck also warned the U.S. will obliterate Iran's power plants if Tehran doesn't fully open the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours. That prompted Iran to say it would respond to any such strike with attacks on U.S. and Israeli energy and infrastructure assets. It will respond to any such strike with attacks on U.S. and Israeli energy and infrastructure assets. Okay? If he strikes those power plants. Duck is facing increasing pressure at home to secure the strait as oil prices soar. One major fear is that the war could knock out oil and gas production in the Middle East for a long time, which would mean high prices could last a while and cause inflation to rip higher around the world. The U.S. stock market has a history of bouncing back relatively quickly from past conflicts in the Middle East and elsewhere, as long as oil prices don't stay too high for too long. Iran on Monday renewed strikes on its Gulf neighbors and threatened to start hitting their power plants. The situation is very severe, Barrow said in Australia. The oil crisis of 1973 and 1979, he said, lost together 10 million barrels per day, causing major economic problems around the world and recessions. And today, only as of today, we lost 11 million barrels per day. So more than 2 major oil shocks put together. About to get into Jacob's trouble. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine, he said the gas markets, especially in Europe, lost about 75 billion cubic meters. As of now, as a result of this crisis, we lost about 140 billion cubic meters, almost twice as much. Burrow said 40 energy assets in 9 countries across the region were severely or very severely damaged. Some of the vital arteries of the global economy, such as petrochemicals, such as fertilizers, such as sulfur, and such as helium, their trade is all interrupted, which would have serious consequences for the global economy, he said. So that's some serious consequences, man. They're coming. I wonder what they're going to do. They don't talk about lockdowns, but that's this. The video that I was watching, that's what she was talking about. That these issues with the global economy, that they're I think other countries are already talking about lockdowns. As a matter of fact, let's look that up. Is India doing lockdowns because of the war in the Middle East? Based on reports, India is not implementing nationwide lockdowns due to the conflict in the Middle East. However, the conflict has caused significant disruptions, prompting the Indian government to issue safety advisories, tighten security, and prepare for potential long-term impacts. As a matter of fact, let's see what this says. What's this? Instagram? Nah, I ain't looking for Instagram. Safety advisories and travel. The Indian government issued urgent advisories for Indian nationals in Israel, Iran, and the UAE, urging them to stay safe, avoid unnecessary travel, and exercise caution. That's not what I'm looking for. Are there any nations that are doing lockdowns because of the war? Let's see. News. The great toilet paper panic is back as Japan starts stockpiling. The stakes are enormous. How a prolonged Iran war could shock the global economy. Middle East shockwaves ripple through Asia-Pacific fuel and supply chains. How the Iran war is affecting the global travel. Is it safe to travel to Dubai? Gas and energy prices during the energy crisis and beyond. So I'm not really seeing things in the news. I'm just hearing it on X. But that's the rumor. He said the International Energy Agency, in order to comfort the markets, earlier released 400 million barrels of oil, which is historic. We have never released so much oil to the markets. The single most important solution to this problem is opening up the Hormuz Strait as things stand now. The official added that he was consulting with governments in Europe, Asia, North America, and the Middle East about the prospect of releasing further stockpiled oil. We will see. We will look at the markets, he said. If it is necessary, of course, we will do it. But we will look at the conditions. We will analyze, assess the market, and discuss with our member countries. So let me see what else I found on this. Work from home. What's this? Work from home encourages the world's energy watchdog. Let's see, read a little bit of whatever they give me. I'll continue without support. I don't want to support this shit. Here are all let me read it. This is from TheVerge.com. Many organizations have called employees back to offices following vid-related lockdowns. When is this? What is the date? March 20th. But the Iran war and ensuing energy crisis may quickly see workers returning to work from home. The International Energy Agency, IEA, an energy watchdog established to help safeguard global power supplies following the 1970s oil crisis, is pushing for governments, businesses, and households to adopt recommendations that aim to curb energy demands amid supply disruptions triggered by the conflict. So they might start hitting you with that you're using too much energy bullshit like they had, start telling you, you're using too much energy, and have some way to um, to measure it. You know, it says, let me see. It says, is pushing for governments, businesses, households to adopt recommendations that aim to curb energy demands. So now they're recommending shit, and then it ends up being mandatory. Amid supply disruptions triggered by the conflict, the list of 10 suggested actions identified in the EIA's report includes encouraging people to work from home and or drive slower to reduce fuel usage, and even switch from using gas hobs to electric cooking options. See? Not telling you what the fuck to do. Oh, we got to do it so we can maintain, the electrical grid can't hold it. We can only sustain so much. They might try to regulate how much water you use. How much heat your house can get. All types of bullshit, man. Jacob's trouble's gonna be hell. That's what this nigga does. He just puts hell on you. Here are all of the immediate actions being recommended by the IEA. Work from home where possible. Displaces oil use from commuting, particularly where jobs are suitable for remote work. Reduce highway speed limits by at least 10 kilometers per hour. Lower speeds reduce fuel use for passenger cars, vans, and trucks. Encourage public transport. A shift from private cars to buses and trains can quickly reduce oil demand. Alternate private car access to roads in large cities on different days. Number plate rotation schemes. Plate rotation schemes? All right, so if your plate starts with a 5, A through F, or 1 through 6, you can come out from Monday to Wednesday. You can drive your car. You can privately drive your car. But from Thursday to Sunday, you got to take public transportation. Can reduce congestion in fuel-intensive driving. Yeah, because he cares about. He's the one he caused the war over there. And now he wants to offer some type of solution. This nigga's full of shit. Increase car sharing and adopt efficient driving practices. Higher car occupancy and eco driving can lower fuel consumption quickly. Efficient driving for road commercial vehicles and delivery of goods. Better driving practices, vehicle maintenance, and load optimization can cut diesel use. Efficient driving for road commercial vehicles and delivery of goods. I wonder what that means. Divert LPG use from transport. Shifting biofuel and converted vehicles from LPG to gasoline can preserve LPG for cooking and other essential needs. Avoid air travel where alternative options exist. Reducing business flights can quickly ease pressure on jet fuel markets. And you see what he's doing with the ICE agents at the airport. ICE agents deployed to airports as TSA wait times grow. Let's see what this is talking about. ICE deploys to airports, immigration. And they didn't come to Logan. They're in 14 airports today to help during the Department of Homeland Security shutdown. The Transportation Security Administration has faced growing call-outs from officers who have gone without pay since DHS funding lapsed in February. So now, call-outs from officers? Is that talking about TSA, or is that talking about actual police officers? Growing travel woes. Travelers have been dealing with worsening airport wait times, with George Bush International Airport, Intercontinental Airport, and Houston warning flyers it could take more than 4 hours to get through. LaGuardia Airport in New York was reopened this afternoon after a fatal collision between an Air Canada plane and a fire truck. Track wait times at major airports here. That's crazy. It's talking about this shit. Two pilots dead after plane and ground vehicle collide at New York's LaGuardia Airport. This caused mad delays today. Imagine you landing, and then they said that I think this whatever truck was there crushed the pilot's thing. Let's see what it says. Two pilots have died after an Air Canada plane carrying dozens of people collided with a firefighting vehicle responding to a separate incident at New York's LaGuardia Airport. 41 people were taken to hospital, Port Authority Chief Catherine Garcia said. 32 of them were later discharged, but others had serious injuries. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani described it as a tragic collision, saying the National Transportation Safety Board was investigating Sunday's incident. I'm grateful to our first responders whose swift action saved lives. The airport was closed overnight and in the morning reopened 14 local time. That shit's crazy, man. Nigga drove through where the plane collides with firefighting vehicle. All this shit going on Monday, man. That shit's crazy. Is that it? No end to shutdown in sight. There are a few signs lawmakers will. So it looks like, they running the airports. They're probably going to make it more difficult for you to travel. That's what it's saying here. Avoid air travel where alternative options exist. And plus, they taking over the airport knowing that they want to deport your ass. That's probably what they're going to do. Make it easier for immigration. Who knows? I don't know what they're doing with that. It says, avoid air travel where alternative options exist. Reducing business flights can quickly ease pressure on jet fuel markets. They ain't going to be any work, so what will you need the airport for? Probably start mass shipping you to go to these different wars he got all over the damn war, all over the earth. Be mad soldiers just being shipped out, going all the way to damn Joel 2 and 20. It's almost that time, man. Probably what they wanted to start kidnapping you niggas. Not just you niggas, but all different types of people, man. Fighting age men. So they can just ship you out. He got the northern border, he got the southern border, then he got the airports. Yeah, man, we gonna be locked up. This is a big, huge prison country. This is great. And the duck's the warden. Joel 2 verse 20, but I will remove far off from you the northern army and will drive them into a land barren and desolate with his face toward the east sea and his hinder part to the utmost sea, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savior shall come up, because he have done great things. So the Lord's going to be sending the northern army. Instead of taking immigrants, he might just start locking you people up and sending you over there to that war. But he said he wasn't starting in Boston. He's in these 14 different cities, which, let me find out. What 14 different airports is ICE in? Let's go AI mode on it. Atlanta, Houston, Newark, Pittsburgh, New Orleans. Role of agents. DHS officials state that the agents are assisting with non-law enforcement duties, including managing security lines, directing passenger flow, and helping with bag screening, often in full uniform. While intended to ease bottlenecks, the deployment of federal law enforcement at screening checkpoints has prompted concern. concern is popping off. Federal ICE agents were helping relieve pressure on TSA officers. Stuff like that relieves the TSA officers to go screening and to reduce those lines, said Border Czar Tom Homan. President Duck is taking action to deploy hundreds of ICE officers that are currently funded by Congress to airports being adversely impacted. Yeah, because they care about you making your flight so much. The Department of DHS said in a statement, this will help bolster TSA efforts to keep our skies safe and minimize air travel disruptions. Sure it is. ICE was deployed to at least 14 airports, including in New York, Philadelphia, and Chicago. In Boston, Logan Airport maintained enough staffing to handle demand, and ICE agents were not needed. Still, as of last week, 35 TSA officers at New England airports had left their jobs amid the shutdown. In New England, 35 TSA agents have left their jobs, and more could follow if the partial government shutdown isn't resolved. So they're not here in New England yet, but it sounds like they will be. Union leaders, including Michael, president of TSA Officers Union New England 2617, supported additional help but raised concerns about ICE's presence. They bring attention and baggage with them, he said. Our officers are simply not trained or prepared to manage any kind of situation that might develop between an ICE agent and a passenger. Yeah. Oh man, what's going on here? What's going on here? All right. Let's see what else it says. It says, avoid air travel where alternative options exist. Reducing business. I keep reading that. Number 9, it says, where possible, switch to other modern cooking solutions. Encouraging electric cooking or other modern options can reduce reliance on LPG. Leverage flexibility with the petrochemical feedstocks and implement short-term efficiency and maintenance measures. Industry can help free up LPG for essential uses while reducing oil consumption through quick operational improvements. Now, these are just recommendations now, but I can see how this can be implemented mandatorily depending on how it escalates in the Middle East. You know, he's giving you the 5 days, but if he bombs those power plants, you're going to see a drastic change in the way things are done over here. These actions primarily focus on reducing road transport, which the IEA reports accounts for around 45% of global oil demand. Now, a lot of us rely on, you got to go on the road to make your money. You know, so that's going to affect a bunch of different people's jobs. You know, and then he might start rolling out alternative ways of, you know, UBI and all of that. You know, starting to tighten the grip on this place. So, you know, to get full conform, you know, making people conform to him. You know, slowly tightening up the grip. It'll be a slow process, and then all the way up to the point where he literally establishes that MOTB. You know, the scriptures tell you how this devil does a diligent search, so he knows each step of the way, you know, what you're about. You know, what you're gonna do when you're put in that situation. He runs these tests. That's why he's slowly doing it, but it's really the Lord. That's why people ain't in a full uproar yet. And they're not gonna be until it's that time. It says accounts for around 45% of global oil demand. Gas prices surged in the U.S. after the Duck administration in Israel launched strikes against Iran on February 28th. And the impact of prolonged military engagement is expected to make energy markets more and more severe, according to the IEA Executive Director, Faith Barol. See, that's that word, faith. It's all spiritual, man. That's what you're going to have to rely on. Your faith. You know, this internet, as a matter of fact, I wanted to grab that too. any news reports about Iran shooting the fiber optics? Fiber optics. There you go. U.S.-Iran war threatens Gulf AI infrastructure. Let's see, AM mode. Let's see what pops up. Recent news reports as of March 2026 indicate that Iranian-backed groups are now using fiber optic drones, also known as wire drones, in attacks against U.S. and allied targets. This technology is a significant shift in the region's electronic warfare landscape. Fiber optic drone attacks targeting U.S. facilities on March 15, 2026. An Iranian-backed militia reportedly carried out a strike using a fiber optic link FPV drone at the U.S. Victory Base near Baghdad International Airport. Infiltration of the U.S. Embassy reports from March 17, 2026 suggests a fiber optic drone was used for a reconnaissance mission inside the U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad. So, why fiber optics? Unlike wireless drones, these are immune to electronic jamming because they are physically connected to the pilot by a thin cable. This makes them nearly impossible to defend against using standard electronic warfare. Threats to undersea fiber cables. In addition to using fiber optic weapons, Iran has reportedly threatened the region's physical internet infrastructure. Retaliation warnings on March 22, 2026 reports emerged that Iran has threatened to target underwater fiber optic cables in the Persian Gulf as retaliation for potential strikes on its power plant. So, this internet is going to be done. It might go dark to the point where you can't even use the internet anymore, and you got to fully rely on Esau's his propaganda on the TV. Who knows, man? And if you ain't got this word, you fooling around, hey, that's on you. That's on you, man. Global impact. Disrupting these cables would cause widespread communication blackouts affecting internet traffic between Europe, Africa, and Asia. Infrastructure blackouts within Iran. A near total internet blackout has been reported following recent military tensions. The experts suggesting some of the outage may be due to physical damage or fiber optic infrastructure from airstrikes. Let's ask the question: would this affect USA? Yes, a major disruption of fiber optic cables by Iran or its proxies would have a direct and significant impact on the U.S. While the physical damage might occur thousands of miles away, the U.S. is deeply connected to this infrastructure in three main ways: economic and financial chaos. Undersea cables are the aorta of the global financial system. I think that's like a choke point. Oh, is that the heart? I forgot what's the aorta. Aorta. I'm saying it wrong. The main artery of the body, supplying oxygenated blood to the circulatory system. In humans, it passes over the heart from the left vertical and runs down in the front of the backbone. So, yeah, that's the lifeline, man. Market volatility, even a temporary cut, can paralyze payment systems and cause mayhem in U.S. financial markets that rely on instant data flows. See? So then you got to implement that chip. So they're already being threatened to do that. Let me grab that in Revelation 13. We're getting close. Revelation 13. Verse 16, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Because if he messes up all these different infrastructures, we can't prove who was who. No, we have to switch to this system. Everything's blacked out. We can't prove you are who you say you are. We have an immigration crisis. We don't know who is who. We need to bring order. We've been attacked. Might try to implement all that bullshit. Business disruption. American companies like Google, Meta, and Microsoft own and operate much of this infrastructure. Damage to these cables can lead to service outages, lost revenue, and supply chain delays for the U.S. businesses. National security and military readiness. The U.S. military is heavily dependent on commercial fiber optic networks for its global operations, right? Who knows if that'll go into, your actual ID. You might need a digital ID. You might have to, whatever system he's going to implement is all to get you prepared to take the chip. Starting with, he might try to hit you with the UBI, your bank account, whatever money you got in the bank, you can count that as lost already. Because in order to get it back, you're going to have to go through him. And don't get me wrong, is if he sets up a system where you ain't got to take a chip, why wouldn't you join it? It's the chip that you got to watch out. There might be a time in between time where it goes digital, but you don't have to fully take the chip. But it ain't going to be that far in between time when he makes it mandatory that you have to do it. And that's when all hell's going to break loose, and that's when we're pretty much at the end. And we're right around the brink of all this happening. The U.S. military is heavily dependent on commercial fiber optic networks for its global operations. Military communications, more than 80% of U.S. military communications travel through these privately owned cables. So if they attack that, not even the military is going to be able to communicate. Intelligence vulnerability. This infrastructure has been called the soft underbelly of American global power. If Iran targets cables in the Persian Gulf or Red Sea, it could degrade the U.S.'s ability to coordinate with its bases and allies in the Middle East and Europe. And that's probably why he wants to put the chip inside you. You're going to be the antenna that he needs to maneuver through these different places. He's going to use you as the 6G network so he can establish you and get all the real-time data that he needs. Internet reliability for consumers. While the U.S. has a high level of redundancy, meaning data can often be rerouted through other cables, a large-scale or coordinated attack would still be felt, right? And you people need your internet, so there's a psychological aspect to not accessing the internet too. When kids can't play their games, they start bugging out. It's not, people are gonna be bugging out, man. Your kids, you gotta actually sit there and get to meet, learn. Your kids be always occupied in some shit. Then when they don't have nothing to distract them, they're gonna be focused on what you doing. Slower speeds, you might experience significant lag or slower internet speeds as traffic is forced onto fewer available paths. Cloud outages, major US-based cloud services like Microsoft Azure have already seen disruptions due to cable cuts in the Red Sea. The gray zone strategy, experts at the Center of Strategic and International Studies note that adversaries like Iran use these gray zone tactics to cause societal chaos and damage U.S. readiness without triggering a full-scale war. Are you interested in how the U.S. government is responding to these threats, such as new legislation or naval patrols? Yeah, we'll see what you got to say. Or not. The U.S. government is actively shifting its national security focus towards protecting undersea fiber optic infrastructure through new laws, stricter regulations, and international military coordination. New legislation, the Strategic Subsea Cables of Act of 2026, introduced in late 2025 and moving through Congress in early 2026, aims to close security gaps. Mandatory sanctions requires the president to impose sanctions on any foreign person or entity responsible for intentionally damaging subsea cables. They're not going to give a fuck about your sanctions. agency coordination establishes a dedicated committee to streamline federal oversight and ensure that security is prioritized during the permitting and repair process. Intelligence sharing mandates faster communication between the government and private cables operators like Google and Microsoft to share real-time threat information. FCC bans and clean networks. Naval and tactical response addressing the repair bottleneck. Well, hey, it's that time, man. That's going into the famine of the word. That's also going into having that darkness. Because people are not going to know what the hell's going on. Who knows what other plans? Because people communicate via the internet. You might have stricter laws at that point, less movement. So, I don't know, man. We got to pray to the Lord, man, because it's just too much to even, I'm not a war strategist. I'm just hoping the Lord give me the wisdom to navigate. Psalms 19:1, to the chief musician, a psalm of David, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament show of his handiwork. So that's talking about this internet. Okay? And the prophets using the internet to glorify the Lord. But that's coming to an end. The men of the Lord are sealed. They ain't going to have to, the video's about to be done. The elders always talk about, people don't even go on the breakdowns no more. He's saying people don't even scoff on his comment board anymore. I get a lot of different scoffers, but it's at the end, man. And the shit that y'all be talking about is like, niggas is asking, do you have a job? Are you homeless? Are you this? Are you that? Just because someone's teaching the Bible, everybody on the internet ain't homeless and broke. And not everyone that is on the internet is living at home with their mama. Psalms 19:2, day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. That's what this internet does. Okay, you're supposed to get the knowledge of the Lord. This internet's not for folly. It was really to wake up the elect of Israel. That's all this was to be used for. And if you weren't able to come across the wisdom and knowledge of the Lord, hey, then the Lord's just not dealing with you. Psalms 19:3, there is no speech, no language where their voice is not heard. So you can get the word in any language. There's even brothers in GMS they do it in sign language. Right? So I saw brothers in camps doing it, teaching the word in sign language, man. So the Lord, he left, the internet was used properly. Psalms 19:4, their line has gone out through all the earth. That's those fiber optic cables. And their words to the end of the world. In them have he set a tabernacle for the sun. So, that's talking about this word going out via the fiber optic cables and the satellites and, throughout the whole world. Psalms 19:5, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. Let's see what this is talking about. This verse highlights the glory of God in creation, depicting the sun as a purposeful and brilliant as it starts its daily journey across the sky. Right. That's what the sun is for. In them have he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. Yeah, the sun does its rounds every single day. And what does it do? It shines the light. And that's what the prophets do with this word. Psalms 19:6, his going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. So going back into the sun, how it shines light in this world. And it's still, always the same route, always shining, man. Just like the men of the Lord, they're always shining too. They're like lights by teaching this word, which is the light. Okay, Psalm 19:7, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. That's right. Making it plain, making wise the simple. It highlights scripture as a reliable source of wisdom, spiritual restoration, and enlightenment for life. And that's what this word is being used for. That's what the internet's being used for. To convert the soul. It's really for the elect, because 2/3 of y'all ain't going to come into this truth. Psalms 19:8, the statutes of the Lord are right. Rejoice in the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. That's right. Okay, that's what this word is do. It was meant to. That's why this internet was used to glorify the Lord, push out the truth. It highlights that God's laws are morally upright, bringing joy and spiritual insight, while being clear and purifying to those who follow them, as noted. Okay, righteousness and joy. The precepts or statutes are right because they stem from God's perfect character. Following them leads to deep spiritual joy, unlike the misery often caused by wrong actions. So that's the word going out. Enlightening the eyes. So you should be knowing what's going on right now. You shouldn't, the men of the Lord shouldn't have to be taught. You should have already known about Israel. You should have already been making your calling and election sure. You should have been taking this grace period to build yourself up for the evil day. Psalms 19:9, the fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. That's right. But you want to know that because you don't know the Lord. This verse highlights that revering God is pure, eternal, and aligns perfectly with his completely true and righteous laws. Revering, it really says the fear in the KJV, but in the new KJV it says revering, same thing. Having respect unto the laws, statutes, and commandments. And aligns perfectly with his completely true and righteous laws. It emphasizes the purity and lasting nature of divine wisdom. That's right. And a lot of y'all don't have divine wisdom. You got the wisdom of this world. And that's not going to allow you to navigate the obstacles that the Lord has in place for you. More to be desired are they than gold, yea, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. That's right. Because his word is like it's better than riches of gold. This verse highlights that God's word and laws are more valuable than material wealth and bring greater satisfaction than the sweetest earthly pleasures. That's right. So a lot of people don't see the value in this gold. This is it tells you that it's like they're like treasures. This wisdom, but it's giving you free game, and nobody wants it, and that's the only thing that's going to lead to your salvation. Psalms 19:11. Moreover, by them is thy servant warned, and in keeping of them there is great reward. Talking about the law, statutes, and commandments, the precepts. Okay, it emphasizes that obeying God's word provides protection from wrong paths and brings significant spiritual rewards, concluding a section on the value of Scripture. So people don't understand the value of Scripture. It tells you in Isaiah 33:6, wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. Okay. Isaiah 19:12, who can understand his errors? Cleanse thou me from secret faults. That's right. That's what this word does. It's a cleansing agent. It's supposed to, that baptism is supposed to be submerged in this word, but a lot of people ain't going to get it. Then it's going to be cut off. Ultimately, that oil is going to be with the men of the Lord, and only the oil's going to, because it can only dwell within a pure soul, so it's only for the elect. A lot of people, they're defiled, and they can't receive it. It highlights human inability to perceive all personal mistakes and errors. Common translations such as the NIV asks, but who can discern their own errors? Forgive my hidden faults. And that comes from the Lord. He teaches you through this word. He sent up prophets to teach you show you the path. Psalms 19:13, keep back thy servant also from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me. Then shall I be upright, and I shall be innocent from the great transgression. That's right. And the greatest transgression is taking that trip, because that's the only sin you can't repent from. Okay, it asks God to prevent willful disobedience from dominating one's life, leading to a state of being blameless, upright, and free from great transgressions, acting as a plea for sanctification and victory over intentional wrongdoing. That's right. And the real victory is getting over that chip, the beast, the number of his name. Okay, that's what's coming. Psalms 19:14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Right? Because you don't want to have any guile. Because the elect will have no guile. They will understand the scriptures. They will teach it properly. And that's the strength of their salvation. It serves as a plea for integrity, ensuring that inward meditation aligns with outward speech to honor God. That's right. Gotta have that. That good conversation, that good conduct that the Lord's looking for, so you can be blameless in these last days. But I'm gonna end it here. Lord's